target audience feedback, we got a lot of strengths and weaknesses, and we're just going to discuss it with my group today to see where we would improve for maybe if we made some more episodes in the future. So some of the main strengths was basically the main documentary, because they thought it was really exhilarating and intriguing. The interviews and voiceovers, they found that striked most interest.
They found that it looked really professional, and from my evaluation we can put that down to us following the codes and conventions really well.
They liked the opening sequence as well, with all the archive footage and music as well.
Yeah, because it was really fast paced, it was really engaging.
We used exposition. We put loads of footage together, and it basically was the first impression for the audience, and a lot of documentaries do that, and it's like footage from all over the series, and that's what we tried to do.
Also the ancillary tasks, they said the posters were especially very effective, engaging, and a really good way of advertising our documentary.
They liked all the pictures as well.
They said they fulfil their purpose of being advertising, and they want to watch more.
They thought the double page spread, they thought the universe background was really effective because it gave an insight and it portrayed a message of what the documentary is about, that it's alternative, it's not normal, it's controversial. So that in itself is engaging with our audiences without even seeing a previous documentary, so that's really helpful.
They liked what we included in the documentary as well. They said, for example, the Reiki was really interesting, and they thought that the interviewees that we used were really interesting, and they really were engaged in what they had to say about their profession.
They liked how they reused an actual healing session.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because they were kind of allowed to apply it to their own life and actually see from a personal viewpoint what it's actually like for a person to experience that.
They liked how the documentary was kind of participatory. We weren't just feeding them information, we actually joined in, and I actually had a Reiki session, so they liked how it was kind of participatory, not just reflexive.
Yeah, it gave them evidence that alternative healing processes can work.
Yeah, it showed the aspect of realism.
Most of our audiences thought the tarot interview was very informative. We had lots of footage of different tarot cards, books, a reading cloth. So yeah, for them to gain knowledge on their weaker areas is something we want to do. We want it to be educational.
That's the purpose of most documentaries.
And I think we fulfilled it. However, there were some weaknesses, which obviously is key for us because there's always room for improvement. So they said during this opening sequence where we had our archive footage, the sound needs to be improved. So when we got this audience feedback, we straight away went back to post-production stages. We looked at sound, and yeah, it was up and down. It wasn't continuous, and you want continuity in your editing. So we made sure the sound was much better quality, and then exported it to YouTube.
They also said that on one side of double page spread they wanted more text instead of just a picture, so we developed this and added we created a name for the magazine and put that in the top left corner, and then at the bottom we had a really huge pull quote, and we looked through some TV magazines and decided that a massive pull quote would be really effective there.
Yeah, and we used a good font which would normally be used in magazines as well to make it look more professional.
Another weakness for the posters was that the colour scheme could have been more appropriate, but I feel like we challenged that.
On my evaluation, I also said that we challenged the use of a colour scheme in our double page spread because we wanted to reflect the topic that we were discussing, which is alternative lifestyles. We didn't want to follow too many of the typical norms of double page spreads, so that's why we didn't really decide to have a typical colour scheme as well.
If we were to create the next episode for the series, we would have more real footage of alternative lifestyles like clairvoyance and mediums, and not just interviews, because I think sometimes it can be hard to just sit there and listen. You want to be engaged and you want to learn in a different way, so that's what we would do.
What we would want to do next time is maybe follow a colour scheme for the double page spread and see how it went, and we would do this to make it look more continuous, and it could lead to it looking more professional.